The massive alien ship appeared in Earth's solar system without warning. It was bigger than any building humans had ever made, dark metal covered in strange glowing symbols. Admiral Hyan stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Soul's Pride, watching the giant vessel through the main screen. His crew was quiet, all eyes fixed on this first contact with alien life. "Sir, they're sending a message," said Lieutenant Minho from his station. "It's coming through on all frequencies." "Put it on screen," Hyan ordered. The screen flickered and showed a tall alien with gray skin and 4 arms. Its voice was cold and mechanical when it spoke. "I am Commander Thex of the Valtheron Empire. Your species will surrender immediately. You will pay tribute to Emperor Zolak and accept our rule. This is not a request." Admiral Hyan looked around. His bridge. His officers were all humans from different parts of Earth. Captain Deho, who commanded the diplomatic ship Harmony, had joined them for this historic moment. The man was calm, his hands folded behind his back. "Prepare a response channel," Hyan said. "Channel open, sir." Hyan stepped forward, his voice steady and polite. "This is Admiral Hyan of the Terran Defense Fleet. We thank you for making contact with humanity. However, we must respectfully decline your offer of surrender. Earth and its colonies are free worlds." The alien commander's 4 eyes widened. For a moment it seemed like he could not believe what he had heard. "You refuse? Do you not understand who we are? The Valtheron Empire controls 3,000 star systems. We have crushed 100 species." Captain Deho stepped up beside the Admiral. "We understand perfectly. We simply choose to remain free." Commander Thex made a sound that might have been laughter, but it sounded more like metal scraping against stone. "Very well. In 30 of your days our grand fleet will arrive. You will see what happens to those who refuse the Empire. Your worlds will burn, and your species will serve as an example to others." The transmission ended. The bridge was silent for a long moment. "Well," said Deho with a small smile, "that could have gone better." Admiral Hyan turned to his communications officer. "Send word to all human colonies and Earth itself. Tell them what just happened. Full disclosure." "Sir, shouldn't we try to avoid panic?" asked Lieutenant Minho. "There won't be any panic," Hyan said with confidence. "Trust me." He was right. When news of the alien challenge spread across human space, the reaction was not fear. In the bars and cafes of New Tokyo on Mars, people gathered around screens to watch the footage of the exchange. On the moon colony of Lunar Sol, workers stopped their shifts to discuss the coming battle. On Earth, the major cities put up giant screens in public squares. But instead of hiding in their homes or demanding evacuation, humans did something the galaxy had never seen before. They got excited. "Did you see the size of their ship?" said a dock worker on the orbital station New Gangnam. "This is going to be incredible." "I heard the Admiral handled it perfectly," said a teacher in the Earth city of Busan. "Very polite but firm. That's how you do it." On the colony world of New Seoul, the local government started selling tickets to watch the battle from the planet's observation deck. They sold out in 6 hours. Captain Minji, commanding the heavy cruiser Busan Thunder, received over 1,000 applications from retired military personnel wanting to join her crew. She had to turn most of them away because there was no room. "The whole thing is insane," she told her first officer. "People are treating this like it's some kind of sporting event." "Maybe it is," he replied. "The biggest game humanity has ever played." Meanwhile, in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, hidden shipyards worked around the clock. Captain Taewon supervised the final construction of his experimental destroyer, the Ghost Protocol. The ship was smaller than traditional warships, but it was built with new technology that could adapt to enemy attacks. "How many ships do we have ready?" Admiral Hyan asked during a secure conference call with his captains. 80 ships of various classes," reported Captain Deho. "But sir, the aliens said they're bringing their grand fleet. That could be hundreds of ships." "Numbers aren't everything," said Admiral Hyan. "We have something they don't." "What's that, sir?" asked Captain Minji. "We're fighting for our home and we're having fun doing it." Lieutenant Commander Soyoung, the fleet's best tactical analyst, spent her days studying everything they knew about Valtheron ships and tactics. The data came from ancient alien databases they had found on abandoned worlds during human exploration. Their ships are designed for intimidation, she explained to the admiral. Massive, heavily armed, but slow. They're used to enemies that surrender after seeing their fleet. They don't fight actual battles very often. And when they do fight? Hyun asked. They use overwhelming firepower. No fancy tactics, no complex maneuvers, just raw destruction. It works against most species. But not against us? So-young smiled. Sir, human ships are built for speed and agility. We've been designing them for actual combat, not just showing off. Plus, our crews train for complex battle scenarios. We run war games that are more challenging than most real battles these aliens have fought. As the days passed, more human ships gathered in the outer solar system. They came from colonies across human space, each ship volunteering to defend Earth. The orbital station New Gangnam became the coordination center for what was shaping up to be the largest viewing event in human history. Commander Jinwan, stationed at the distant colony of Kepler 442b, sent a message to Earth. Our entire population wants to watch the battle. We're setting up holographic displays across the colony. Some people are calling it the greatest show in the galaxy. On Earth, children who had never seen a real space battle studied tactical manuals and ship designs. Adults who had lived peaceful lives suddenly became experts on military strategy. The entire species was preparing for war with the enthusiasm usually reserved for festivals. The aliens think they're dealing with a normal species, Captain Daeho observed. They expect us to be afraid. Are you afraid? Admiral Hyun asked. Daeho thought for a moment. I'm terrified, but I'm also more excited than I've ever been in my life. Does that make sense? Perfect sense, Hyun replied. That's what makes us human. The Valtheron Empire had sent their ultimatum expecting quick surrender, or at least desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, they received reports from their spies that humans were actually celebrating the coming battle. Emperor Zolak himself demanded to know how an unknown species could react with such confidence. Perhaps they have secret weapons, suggested one of his advisors. Or perhaps they are simply insane, said another. But deep in human space, in hidden bases and secret research facilities, humanity's real preparations were taking place. These were not just military preparations, but something far more dangerous to the Empire's way of thinking. Humanity was approaching this existential threat as an opportunity to show what they could do. In the final days before the Valtheron fleet's arrival, Admiral Hyun broadcast a message to all human worlds. In 72 hours, the Valtheron Empire will arrive to demand our surrender. We will show them that humanity does not kneel. We will show them that some species cannot be conquered, and we will do it with style. The response from across human space was immediate. Every colony, every ship, every human settlement sent back the same message. We're ready. Let's show them what humans can do. The stage was set. The Valtheron Empire was about to learn that some challenges should never be made, especially against a species that greets overwhelming odds with a smile and asks, "Is that all you've got?" Deep in the asteroid belt, hidden from alien sensors, the secret shipyards of humanity worked without rest. Captain Taewon floated in zero gravity, watching the final assembly of his ship, the Ghost Protocol. The destroyer was unlike anything in the official fleet records. Its hull was made of adaptive metal that could change its properties in response to different types of attacks. "How does it work exactly?" asked his chief engineer, a young woman named Yoonji. "The hull can absorb energy and spread it across the entire ship," Taewon explained. "Instead of taking damage in one spot, the whole ship shares the load. Plus, it can store that energy and release it back at attackers." Yoonji whistled in appreciation. "The aliens are going to hate that." That's the idea. The Ghost Protocol was just one of many secret projects. In hidden bases throughout the solar system, human engineers had been preparing for this day for years. They had always known that eventually, humanity would meet hostile aliens. The question was never if, but when. Lieutenant Commander So-young worked in a secure facility on the far side of the moon. Her job was to study alien military tactics and find weaknesses. She had spent months analyzing captured Valtheron technology and battle records from their previous conquests. Every species they've defeated made the same mistake, she explained to Admiral Hyun during an encrypted video call. They tried to match the Valtheron's ship for ship, gun for gun. They fought the Empire's kind of battle. And that doesn't work? Hyun asked. The Empire has been building warships for thousands of years. Their technology is old but reliable. Their ships are bigger and more heavily armed than anything most species can build. In a straight fight, they usually win. But we're not going to fight them straight, So-young smiled. No, sir, we're not. Human ships are built for movement and flexibility. We can change tactics in the middle of battle. Our crews train for chaos and confusion. We're going to fight them like humans, not like Valtherons. The secret wasn't just better ships or smarter tactics. It was something much more fundamental about how humans approached problems. While other species saw the massive Valtheron fleet as an unstoppable force, humans saw it as a puzzle to solve. Captain Minji supervised training exercises near Jupiter's moons. Her heavy cruiser, the Busan Thunder, led a squadron of smaller ships through complex maneuvers. They practiced something the Valtherons had never seen before: coordinated chaos. Blue Squadron, break formation and attack from below, Minji ordered. Red Squadron, feint left, then swing around their flank. Gold Squadron, straight up the middle but be ready to scatter. To outside observers, it looked like madness. Human ships seemed to move randomly, with no clear formation or obvious strategy. But there was a pattern, visible only to those who understood human thinking. It's like jazz music, explained Commander Jin Hwan to his crew on the distant colony, E-World. Every musician plays their own part, but they all listen to each other. The result sounds chaotic, but it's actually perfectly coordinated. The Valtherons studied recordings of human fleet exercises and could not understand what they were seeing. Their own fleets moved in rigid formations, each ship following predetermined patterns. It was efficient and predictable. Human fleets seemed to move like schools of fish or flocks of birds, reacting to each other in ways that seemed almost magical. But the real secret weapon was something the Empire had never encountered: human enthusiasm. On the orbital station, New Gangnam, the largest holographic display system ever built was nearing completion. The station's commander, Captain Wu Jin, had originally been ordered to evacuate civilians to safety. Instead, he had received requests from over 50,000 people wanting to watch the battle from the station's observation decks. "Sir, we have a problem," his aide informed him. "We're getting requests from other star systems. Humans from 12 different colonies want to travel here just to watch the battle." "How many requests?" Wu Jin asked. "Over 2 million so far." Wu Jin sat back in his chair. "And they all want to watch us fight for our lives?" "Yes, sir. Some of them are offering to pay significant amounts for tickets." "Well," Wu Jin said with a grin, "I guess we better put on a good show." The enthusiasm wasn't limited to civilians. In military bases across human space, retired officers were coming out of retirement to volunteer for the battle. Admiral Hyun had to turn away thousands of applications because there simply weren't enough ships. "I've never seen anything like it," Captain Daeho told his crew. "People are fighting for the chance to fight. Most species try to avoid war. We're treating it like a celebration." "Is that normal for humans?" asked his alien cultural advisor, a peaceful researcher from a species that had willingly joined the Valtheron Empire centuries ago. "Completely normal," Daeho replied. "Humans don't like being told what to do. We especially don't like being threatened. Tell a human they can't do something, and they'll spend all their time figuring out how to do it anyway." The alien researcher looked puzzled. "But the Empire is offering you safety and prosperity under their rule. Why would you choose dangerous freedom over peaceful servitude?" Daeho thought for a moment. "Because we're not interested in being safe. We're interested in being alive." In secret laboratories, human scientists worked on projects that would have seemed like magic to the Empire. Dr. Kyung-min led a team developing quantum communication systems that would allow every human ship to share information instantly, regardless of distance. Dr. Hana worked on adaptive AI systems that could learn enemy tactics in real time and develop countermeasures. The Valtherons used the same battle strategies they've used for centuries, Dr. Hana explained to Admiral Hyan. They don't need to adapt because they always win through overwhelming force. But our AI systems will study their moves and find patterns they don't even know they have. How long will it take? Hyan asked. In a normal battle, maybe hours. But our systems are designed to learn from chaos. The more confused the battle gets, the faster they adapt. It's perfect for human-style warfare. Captain Taewon tested his ship's new capabilities in the asteroid field. The Ghost Protocol moved through space like it was dancing, spinning and weaving between rocks at speeds that should have been impossible for a ship its size. How does it feel? Asked his pilot, Lieutenant Sang-hoon. Like the ship is alive, Taewon replied. It anticipates what I want to do before I do it. Flying this thing is going to be like conducting an orchestra. The secret preparations weren't just technological. Human psychologists studied everything they knew about Valtheron culture and mindset. The Empire had ruled for so long that they had forgotten how to deal with genuine resistance. They're bullies, explained Dr. Younghee, the fleet's chief psychologist. They're used to victims who are already afraid before the fight starts. They don't know how to handle an enemy that's actually excited to fight them. What happens when bullies meet someone who fights back? Admiral Hyan asked. They usually run, Dr. Younghee replied. Or they make mistakes because they're angry and confused. As the final days approached, humanity's preparations entered their last phase. The 80 ships of the official fleet took their positions near Earth, but scattered throughout the solar system, hidden among asteroids and space stations, hundreds of other vessels waited. Some were military ships disguised as civilian transports. Others were civilian ships that had been secretly armed. Mining vessels carried experimental weapons in their cargo holds. Even passenger liners had been equipped with defensive systems. The Empire thinks they're facing 80 human ships, Admiral Hyan told his senior staff. They're actually facing every human in the solar system who can hold a weapon. Captain Minji reviewed the final battle plans. On paper, they looked completely insane. Human ships would operate in small groups with minimal central coordination. Each captain would make their own tactical decisions based on local conditions. It was the opposite of how military forces were supposed to work. Are we sure this will work? She asked. No, Admiral Hyan replied honestly. But neither is fighting them their way. At least our way if we lose. We'll lose as humans. Lieutenant Commander So-young made her final predictions about the coming battle. The Valtherons will open with their standard intimidation display, massive ships in perfect formation, designed to make enemies surrender before the shooting starts. When we don't surrender, they'll use concentrated firepower to try to break our formation quickly. And then they'll discover that we don't have a formation to break. And that's when things get interesting. The last secret was the simplest one of all. While the Empire prepared for another routine conquest, humanity prepared for the most entertaining fight in their species' history. Across human space, viewing parties were planned, bets were placed, and children asked their parents to explain why everyone was so excited. Because, explained a father to his young daughter on the Mars colony, this is our chance to show the galaxy who we really are. Not as servants or subjects, but as humans. And what are humans? The girl asked. Her father smiled as he looked up at the stars where the battle would soon take place. Humans are the species that gets excited when someone tells them they can't win. The space around Earth shimmered like heat waves on a hot day. Then the darkness tore open, and the Valtheron Grand Fleet emerged from hyperspace. 300 massive warships appeared in perfect formation, their hulls black as night and covered in glowing weapon ports. At the center of the fleet was the super dreadnought Eternal Dominion, a ship so large it could have housed a small city. On the bridge of the Soul's Pride, Admiral Hyan watched the enemy fleet take position. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Minho, read off the scanner reports in a voice that tried to stay calm. Sir, I count 312 vessels, 74 heavy cruisers, 108 destroyers, 87 light cruisers, 42 support ships, and 1 super dreadnought. Total mass estimates suggest they outweigh our fleet by approximately 15 to 1. Admiral Hyan nodded calmly. Impressive. Send a message to all human vessels and colonies. Tell them the show is about to begin. Fleet Marshal Cronus stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, surveying the small human fleet through his main viewer. 80 ships. 80. He had conquered. Star systems defended by larger fleets. This would be over in minutes. Open a channel to all human vessels in their homeworld, he ordered. His communications officer, a being with tentacles instead of arms, quickly complied. Cronus's image appeared on screens throughout human space. His voice was deep and threatening as he spoke. Humans of Earth, you see before you the Grand Fleet of the Valtheron Empire. We have destroyed civilizations that existed for millions of years. We have turned entire star systems into monuments to our power. You have one final chance to surrender and serve the Empire. Refuse, and your species will be erased from existence. The transmission ended and Cronus waited for the inevitable response. Most species begged for mercy at this point. Some tried to negotiate. All of them surrendered within minutes of seeing the Grand Fleet. Instead, he received a response that confused him completely. Admiral Hyan appeared on screen standing calmly on his bridge. Behind him, Cronus could see the human crew going about their duties with relaxed efficiency. No one looked afraid. Several were actually smiling. Fleet Marshal Cronus, Hyan said politely. I am Admiral Hyan of the Terran Defense Fleet. On behalf of humanity, I want to thank you for this opportunity. Opportunity? Cronus felt his forearms tense in confusion. Yes. You see, Marshal, humans have wondered for years what we would do when we met our first hostile alien species. You've given us the chance to find out. We're quite excited about it. Cronus looked around his bridge. His officers seemed as confused as he was. You thank us for coming to destroy you? Well, when you put it that way, it does sound strange, Admiral Hyan admitted. But yes, in a way. You've challenged us to prove that humanity deserves its place in the galaxy. We accept that challenge with gratitude. The transmission ended, leaving Cronus staring at a blank screen. In his thousands of years of military service, he had never encountered such a response. Were the humans insane? Did they not understand what was about to happen to them? Sir, his tactical officer reported, the human fleet is moving into position. Cronus watched the human ships maneuver and felt his confusion deepen. The 80 vessels spread out in a loose formation that made no sense according to standard military doctrine. There was no clear command structure, no defensive line, no apparent strategy. What are they doing? He asked his chief of staff. I'm not sure, sir. Their formation appears to be completely random. What Cronus couldn't see was that across human space, the largest viewing event in species history was beginning. On Earth, giant screens had been set up in every major city. People gathered in parks, on rooftops, and in public squares to watch the battle. Children sat on their parents' shoulders to get a better view. On the orbital station, New Gangnam, Captain Woojin supervised the final preparations for the ultimate viewing experience. Holographic displays online, multiple camera angles ready, commentary team standing by. Commentary team? Asked his aide. Former Admiral Park volunteered to provide tactical analysis for civilian viewers. He says if we're going to fight for our lives, we might as well help people understand what they're watching. On the Mars colony, the local government had declared a planetary holiday. Schools and businesses closed so everyone could watch the battle. In the bars and restaurants, people placed bets on how long the fight would last and which human ship would score the first hit. Captain Minji, commanding the heavy cruiser Busan Thunder, received a message from her home colony on New Busan. It was from her younger brother. The whole planet is watching. Make us proud, sis. She smiled and forwarded the message to her crew. No pressure, everyone. Captain Taewon ran final checks on the Ghost Protocol's adaptive systems. His ship was Yu, hidden among the asteroids with several other experimental vessels, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. How are our stealth systems? Holding perfectly, sir. reported his engineer. The aliens have no idea we're here. Good. Let's keep it that way until we're ready to surprise them. Captain Deho, whose diplomatic ship Harmony was actually a disguised battleship, positioned himself with the main fleet. His job was to coordinate with the hidden vessels while appearing to be just another cruiser. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving viewing party invitations from 17 different colonies. They want to know if we'll accept video calls during the battle so they can cheer us on. Deho laughed. Tell them we'll try to wave at the cameras if we get a chance. Lieutenant Commander Soyoung monitored alien communications from her position aboard the Soul's Pride. Sir, the Valtherons are confused by our formation. They're trying to identify our command structure and predict our strategy. Any luck? Admiral Hyan asked. None at all. They keep running computer simulations, but our formation doesn't match any known military doctrine. Their computers keep concluding that we must be broken or malfunctioning. Admiral Hyan nodded with satisfaction. Perfect. The more confused they are, the better. On the distant colony world of Kepler 442b, Commander Jinwan had set up the largest viewing screen in the colony's history. The entire population had gathered in the main plaza to watch the battle. 5 minutes until first contact, he announced over the colony speakers. Remember, this is history in the making. A child in the crowd raised her hand. Commander, are we going to win? Jinhuan smiled. I don't know, little one. But I know we're going to put on a show that the galaxy will never forget. Back in the fleet, Fleet Marshal Cronus finally lost patience with trying to understand the human formation. All ships prepare to fire. We'll start with a demonstration barrage, target their lead vessels and destroy them. That should convince the rest to surrender. Sir, his tactical officer reported, which ships are their lead vessels? I can't identify their command structure. Cronus studied the human formation again. The 80 ships seemed to move independently, with no clear hierarchy or organization. It was as if each captain was making their own decisions. Then target the largest ships, he ordered. Fire on my command. Across the Valtheron fleet, massive energy weapons charged to full power. The combined firepower could destroy a small moon. Against 80 tiny human ships, it would be like using a sledgehammer to swat flies. Admiral Hyan watched the energy readings spike on his sensors. All ships they're about to fire. Remember your training and trust your instincts. Show them what humans can do. The response from the human fleet was immediate. Captain Minji's voice came over the comm. Copy that, Admiral. Busan Thunder ready to dance. Captain Taiwan added from his hidden position. Ghost Protocol standing by to surprise some aliens. Captain. Deho's voice was calm and professional. Harmony ready to provide diplomatic solutions to their military problems. All across human space, millions of people held their breath as the two fleets faced each other. In homes and public spaces, on space stations and colony worlds, humanity prepared to see their species' first real test among the stars. A grandmother on Earth pulled her grandchildren closer as they watched from their rooftop. Pay attention, she told them. This is the day humans stopped being just another species and started being something special. Fleet Marshal Cronus raised his hand to give the firing order. All ship, fire! The darkness of space lit up like a sun as 300 alien warships fired at once. Beams of energy that could vaporize mountains streaked across space toward the human fleet. It was enough firepower to destroy everything humanity had ever built, and that's when the aliens learned their first lesson about fighting humans. They don't fight like anyone else in the galaxy. The energy beams that could destroy mountains hit empty space. Where the human ships had been moments before, there was nothing. 80 vessels had simply vanished, as if they had never existed. Fleet Marshal Cronus stared at his tactical display, in disbelief. Where did they go? He demanded. Sir, they moved, his tactical officer stammered, all of them at exactly the same time. Perfect coordination. Impossible. No fleet can move that precisely without extensive planning and communication delays. But the human ships were already reappearing, emerging from behind asteroids, rising from below the plane of battle, dropping down from above. They had scattered like leaves in the wind, each ship moving in a different direction, and yet somehow they had all avoided the massive energy barrage. On the bridge of the Soul's Pride, Admiral Hyon smiled. Phase 1 complete. All ships begin the dance. Lieutenant Commander So-young monitored the alien communications. Sir, they're completely confused. They're trying to retarget, but our ships are moving too fast for their weapons to track. Good. Minho, signal the fleet. Execute pattern Sol 7. What happened next had never been seen in galactic warfare. The human ships began to move in patterns that seemed random, but were actually based on music. Each captain had trained with the same jazz compositions, learning to improvise within a structure while staying coordinated with the whole. Captain Minji led her squadron in what she privately called the Spiral of Soul. Her ships moved in a complex corkscrew pattern around the larger Valtheron vessels, too fast to target but close enough to return fire. All ships remember the rhythm. 1, 2, 3, turn. 1, 2, 3, fire. 1, 2, 3, scatter. Her squadron moved like dancers, each ship following the beat while adding their own variations. The Valtheron cruisers tried to track them but kept firing at where the human ships had been, not where they were going. Captain Taewon's ghost protocol emerged from the asteroid field like a phantom. The experimental destroyer flew straight at the largest Valtheron dreadnought, dodging energy beams that lit up space around it. When a massive plasma bolt hit the ship directly, something incredible happened. The Ghost Protocol's adaptive hull absorbed the energy and glowed like a star for a moment. Then the energy spread across the ship's surface and was redirected back at the attacker. The Valtheron dreadnought's own weapon struck its own shields, causing massive confusion on their bridge. Did that human ship just catch our energy beam and throw it back? Asked the dreadnought's captain. That's impossible, replied his weapons officer. Energy doesn't work that way. Apparently it does when humans are involved. Captain Daeho's disguised battleship Harmony moved through the battle with elegant precision. The ship appeared to be just another human cruiser, but when it opened, fire, advanced weapons emerged from hidden compartments. Diplomatic solution incoming, Daeho announced calmly, as his ship's main gun fired a beam that sliced through a Valtheron destroyer's shields like they were made of paper. Across human space, the viewing parties erupted in celebration. On Earth, crowds in city squares cheered every time a human ship dodged an alien attack. Children pointed at the screens in excitement as their ships danced between enemy fire. "Look at them move," shouted a young man in New Tokyo on Mars. "They're like ghosts." On the orbital station New Gangnam, Captain Woojin provided commentary for the viewers. "What you're seeing is unprecedented in galactic warfare. Human ships are using adaptive tactics based on musical improvisation. Each captain is essentially composing their part of the battle in real time." An elderly woman in the viewing area asked, "Is this how humans always fight wars?" "No, ma'am," Woojin replied. "This is how humans fight when they're enjoying themselves." Fleet Marshal Cronus watched his perfect formation being torn apart by ships that seemed to move like living things. How are they coordinating so precisely? There should be communication delays. His chief of staff checked their intelligence reports. "Sir, our spies reported that human ships use quantum entanglement communicators. Instant communication across any distance. That's impossible. The technology doesn't exist." Apparently it does now. What the Valtherons didn't understand was that the quantum communicators were just tools. The real secret was that human crews had trained together for years, learning to think and move as one organism while maintaining individual creativity. They fought like a jazz band played music, together but free. Lieutenant Commander So-young tracked the battle's progress from the Soul's Pride. "Sir, we're achieving a 12-to-1 hit ratio. The aliens are landing approximately 1 shot for every 12 they fire. And us? We're hitting them 8 times out of 10. Their large ships are easy targets and their formations are too rigid to adapt to our movement patterns." Admiral Hyon nodded. "Time for Phase 2. Signal Captain Taewon." The Ghost Protocol suddenly multiplied. Where there had been 1 experimental destroyer, now there appeared to be 20. The ship's advanced systems created holographic duplicates that confused Valtheron targeting computers. Each image moved independently, making it impossible to tell which was real. "Sir, we're detecting 27 of the same ship," reported a confused Valtheron tactical officer. "That's impossible, there was only one." "Maybe they're all real? How can they all be real?" While the aliens tried to figure out which ghost protocol was genuine, all 27 images opened fire simultaneously. Only one was real, but the Valtherons couldn't tell which one until after they were hit. Captain Minji's squadron executed their most complex maneuver yet. The human ships linked their movements so precisely that they moved as one organism. When Valtheron ships fired at one vessel, the entire squadron shifted position, causing the enemy to hit their own allies. "This is incredible," reported a news anchor broadcasting to the colony worlds. "Human ships are actually causing the alien fleet to shoot itself." On the distant world of New Sol, the viewing party had turned into a massive celebration. People danced in the streets as they watched their ships outmaneuver the alien fleet. "We're winning," someone shouted. "We're actually winning." But the most impressive sight was Captain Deho's harmony. The ship moved through the battle like it was conducting an orchestra. When Valtheron ships tried to surround it, hidden weapons emerged from every surface. The diplomatic vessel revealed itself to be one of the most advanced warships humanity had ever built. "Surprise," Deho said calmly as his ship's full armament obliterated an entire Valtheron squadron. "Diplomacy can be very persuasive when properly applied." Fleet Marshal Cronus realized with growing horror that his supposedly invincible fleet was being defeated by tactics he couldn't understand. "All ships concentrate fire on their command vessel." "Which one is their command vessel?" asked his tactical officer. Cronus studied the human formation. There was no obvious flagship, no clear command structure. The human ships moved like they were all receiving orders, but there was no central authority he could identify. "Then target them all. Destroy everything that moves." But the Valtheron ships were designed for overwhelming single targets, not tracking multiple fast-moving objects. Their massive weapons were powerful but slow to aim. By the time they locked onto a human ship, it was already somewhere else. Lieutenant Commander So-Young made a disturbing discovery. "Sir, the aliens are getting frustrated. Their communications are becoming erratic. Some ships are breaking formation to pursue individual targets." Admiral Hyon smiled. "Perfect. Signal all ships. The enemy is losing discipline. Time to show them what happens when humans stop warming up." What the Valtherons had seen so far was just the beginning. Human ships had been testing their enemies, learning their patterns, and studying their weaknesses. Now it was time for the real battle to begin. Captain Taywin's ghost protocol suddenly appeared directly behind the Valtheron flagship, having somehow teleported across the battlefield. "Knock knock," he announced over open channels before firing a full spread of torpedoes at point-blank range. The battle was no longer a fight between two fleets. It had become a demonstration of why humans were different from every other species in the galaxy. They didn't just fight wars, they turned warfare into art. And across human space, millions of people watched with pride as their species announced to the galaxy that humanity had arrived, and they were not interested in being conquered by anyone. Fleet Marshal Cronus watched his grand fleet being systematically destroyed by 80 human ships that fought like nothing he had ever encountered. Half of his vessels were disabled or destroyed, and the humans hadn't lost a single ship. His perfect formation was in chaos. His crews were panicking, and his reputation as an undefeated commander was crumbling with every passing minute. "Sir, we're receiving surrender requests from 12 of our captains," his communications officer reported with shame in his voice. "Surrender?" Cronus roared. "The Valtheron Empire does not surrender. Sir, Captain Vex of the destroyer Nightfall says his crew refuses to continue fighting. They say the humans are playing with them like children with toys." Cronus looked at his tactical display. The human ships were indeed playing with his fleet. They moved in patterns that seemed almost mocking, dancing around his massive vessels while picking them apart piece by piece. One human ship had actually flown loop-de-loops around a Valtheron cruiser, while destroying its weapon systems one by one. "All ships, fall back to the Eternal Dominion," he ordered. "Form a defensive sphere around the flagship." What remained of his fleet obeyed, but even their retreat was turned into humiliation. Human ships followed them, not attacking but simply following, like shepherds herding livestock. On the bridge of the Soul's Pride, Admiral Hyan watched the alien fleet cluster around their massive flagship. Signal all ships. Phase 3 begins now. Sir, Lieutenant Minho reported. We're detecting massive energy buildup from their super dreadnought. Something big is charging up. Lieutenant Commander Soyoung checked her readings. Sir, that's a planet-killer weapon. If they fire that at Earth, Admiral Hyan's expression hardened. Then they've just made the biggest mistake of their lives. Deep in the Eternal Dominion, Fleet Marshal Cronus stood before the controls of his ultimate weapon. The planet killer had never been used on a species homeworld before, but these humans had pushed him beyond all patience and military doctrine. Target the third planet, he ordered. Charge the Omega cannon to full power. Sir, his weapons officer said hesitantly. If we destroy their homeworld, we'll be destroying billions of innocent civilians. They should have thought of that before they humiliated the Empire, Cronus snarled. The humans want to fight us? Fine, let them fight this. The massive weapon began to charge, drawing power from the ship's entire energy grid. It would take 5 minutes to reach full power, but once fired, it could crack a planet in half. On Earth, the viewing parties suddenly grew quiet as news of the charging weapon spread. For the first time since the battle began, fear crept into human hearts. This was no longer a game or an exciting show. Their entire world was about to be destroyed. But then Admiral Hyan's voice came over all communication channels, calm and confident. Citizens of Earth and all human colonies, this is Admiral Hyan. The enemy has just revealed their desperation by targeting our homeworld. This is exactly what we've been waiting for. What we've been waiting for? Asked a confused child on Mars. Admiral Hyan continued his broadcast. What you're about to see is the real Terran defense fleet. The 80 ships you've been watching were just the opening act. Captain Wu Jin on the orbital station New Gangnam suddenly understood. Oh my God, he whispered. They're everywhere. Across the solar system, hidden ships began to reveal themselves. What had appeared to be asteroids suddenly unfolded into battleships. Space stations dropped their disguises to show advanced weapon systems. Civilian transports shed their outer hulls to reveal military vessels underneath. Captain Deho's voice came over the fleet channel. All hidden units, drop concealment. Show them what they're really fighting. The space around Earth exploded with activity as 300 additional human ships appeared. They had been hidden in plain sight, disguised as debris, asteroids, and civilian vessels. Mining ships revealed themselves to be carriers full of fighters. Passenger liners opened cargo bays filled with advanced weaponry. Even the colony ship Daegu Explorer, which had been carrying 10,000 civilians to a distant world, suddenly bristled with defensive turrets and launched a squadron of interceptors. Fleet Marshal Cronus stared at his tactical display in horror. Where did they all come from? Sir, they were here the entire time, hidden among the asteroids, disguised as civilian vessels, scattered throughout the system. We've been fighting a fraction of their real fleet, but the true shock was yet to come. Admiral Hyan's voice echoed across all channels, addressing both fleets simultaneously. Fleet Marshal Cronus, you have just threatened to destroy our homeworld and murder billions of innocent people. This is a line you should never have crossed. The Soul's Pride suddenly appeared directly in front of the massive Eternal Dominion, having somehow crossed the distance in seconds. But it wasn't alone. The entire human fleet had moved to surround the alien flagship in a perfect sphere. How did they move so fast? Cronus demanded. Lieutenant Commander Soyoung provided the answer. From her station. Sir, quantum entanglement isn't just for communication. Every human ship is quantum linked to every other ship. We don't just talk to each other instantly. We can coordinate movement at speeds that defy physics. Captain Taewon's Ghost Protocol appeared at 12 different positions around the Eternal Dominion simultaneously. Multiple quantum signatures confirmed, he reported cheerfully. The enemy flagship is completely surrounded by the same ship existing in multiple states. Captain Minji's Busan Thunder led a formation that seemed to dance around the alien fleet. All squadrons in position. The aliens are boxed in with nowhere to run. But the most impressive sight was the coordination itself. 400 human ships moved as one organism, each vessel perfectly positioned to support the others. They had turned the entire solar system into a weapon aimed at the alien flagship. Fleet Marshal Cronus realized with growing terror that his planet-killer weapon was useless. If he fired at Earth, 400 human ships would instantly destroy his flagship. If he tried to target the human fleet, they would simply move faster than his weapon could track. "Sir, the humans are hailing us," his communications officer reported. Admiral Hyun appeared on screen, but now he was flanked by captains from across the human fleet. Captain Daeho stood to his right, Captain Minji to his left. Behind them, the bridges of dozens of other ships were visible, all linked by quantum communication. "Fleet Marshal Cronus," Admiral Hyun said formally, "you have two choices. Surrender your fleet peacefully or discover what happens when you threaten a human family." "You cannot defeat the Eternal Dominion," Cronus protested. "This ship is invincible." Captain Taewon's voice came from 12 directions at once. "Sir, with respect, your ship is large and impressive, but it's also slow and predictable. We've had 5 minutes to study its design while you charged your weapon. Would you like to know what we've discovered?" Before Cronus could answer, the Ghost Protocol demonstrated. The ship appeared at the Eternal Dominion's main engine and fired a single precise shot. Not a destructive blast, but a surgical strike that disabled the massive ship's ability to move or fire its main weapon. "We don't want to destroy your ship," Admiral Hyun explained. "We want to capture it intact, along with your entire crew. You see, Marshal, humans prefer to make friends rather than enemies." Across human space, the viewing parties erupted in celebration once again. But this time, it was different. This wasn't excitement about a battle. It was pride in what humanity had accomplished. On the colony world of New Seoul, Commander Jin Wan addressed his watching population. "What you've just witnessed is more than a military victory. You've seen humanity announce to the galaxy that we don't conquer, we defend, we don't destroy, we capture, we don't rule, we invite others to join us." On Earth, the grandmother, who had been watching with her grandchildren, pointed to the screen. "Remember this day," she told them. "This is the day humans showed the galaxy that there's a better way to be strong." Fleet Marshal Cronus looked around his bridge at his defeated crew. Outside, 400 human ships waited patiently for his decision. He could see their formation was perfect, not for attack but for capture. They had positioned themselves to disable his ship without destroying it. "Why?" he asked Admiral Hyun. "Why capture us instead of destroying us?" Admiral Hyun smiled. "Because, Marshal, every species deserves a second chance to choose friendship over conquest, even yours." The choice was no longer between victory and defeat. It was between destruction and redemption. And for the first time in his long military career, Fleet Marshal Cronus realized he was facing an enemy that was offering him something no one had ever offered before: hope. Fleet Marshal Cronus stood on his bridge, surrounded by 400 human ships that could destroy his flagship in seconds, yet were offering him mercy instead. For the first time in his 1,000-year military career, he was facing an enemy that wanted to save him rather than defeat him. "All ships stand down," he ordered quietly. His crew looked at him in shock, but slowly began powering down their weapons. Admiral Hyun's voice came over the communication channel, warm and respectful. "Thank you, Marshal. You've made the right choice. Captain Daeho will coordinate the peaceful transfer of your crews to safety." "Transfer to where?" Cronus asked. "To our ships initially, then to comfortable quarters while we figure out what comes next. We've prepared facilities for your people. Good food, medical care, entertainment. This doesn't have to be a prison experience." Captain Daeho's diplomatic vessel Harmony approached the massive Eternal Dominion, no longer disguised as a simple cruiser. "Marshal Cronus, I'm Captain Daeho. I handled our first contact, if you remember. I'd like to personally oversee your transfer and answer any questions you might have." As human boarding parties began the careful process of securing the Valtheron, fleet, something unprecedented in galactic history began to unfold. Instead of the usual aftermath of conquest, executions, enslavement, or forced tribute, humans began treating their defeated enemies as guests. Captain Minji supervised the evacuation of a damaged Valtheron cruiser. "Careful with the wounded," she told her medical teams. "They're patients now, not prisoners." A Valtheron officer looked confused as human medics treated his injuries. "Why are you helping us? We came here to destroy you." "Because the human," medic replied while bandaging his arm. "You're hurt and we're doctors. That's all that matters right now." Captain Taewon used his ship's advanced technology to safely extract crews from ships that were too damaged to operate. The Ghost protocols, quantum capabilities allowed it to beam Valtheron personnel directly to safety, even from sealed compartments. "This is impossible," muttered one rescued alien. "Your technology is decades ahead of ours. You could have destroyed us instantly." "We could have," Taewon agreed, "but that would have been wasteful. Your ships have interesting designs and your crews have valuable experience. Why would we throw that away?" Across human space, the viewing parties were transforming into something else entirely. What had begun as entertainment was becoming a celebration of human values. On Earth, crowds gathered not just to cheer victory, but to watch their species demonstrate compassion and triumph. On the orbital station New Gangnam, Captain Wu Jin provided commentary on the unprecedented events. "What you're witnessing has never happened in recorded galactic history. A victorious fleet is treating defeated enemies as refugees rather than prisoners." "Why are they doing that?" asked a young viewer. "Because," Wu Jin replied, "humans fight to protect, not to conquer. Now that the threat is over, these aliens aren't enemies anymore. They're people who need help." Fleet Marshal Cronus found himself aboard the Soul's Pride, sitting across from Admiral Hyon in comfortable quarters that were clearly designed for honored guests, not prisoners. The furniture was elegant, the food was excellent, and he had been given complete access to communication with his scattered fleet. "I don't understand you," Cronus admitted. "We came here to destroy your species. We threatened your homeworld. Why are you treating us like this?" Admiral Hyon poured tea from an elegant ceramic pot. "Because, Marshal, you're not our enemy anymore. You were following orders from an empire that taught you conquest was the only way to be strong. We want to show you there's another way." "And what way is that?" "Friendship, cooperation, building something together instead of tearing each other down." Cronus shook his head. "The Empire will never accept defeat. When they learn what happened here, they'll send another fleet, a bigger one. We're counting on it," Admiral Hyon said with a smile. "The bigger the fleet, the more people we can convince to try something different." Lieutenant Commander So Young entered with a data pad. "Sir, we've completed our analysis of Valtheron technology. It's impressive, reliable, efficient, built to last. Combined with human innovations, we could create ships that are better than anything either of us could build alone." "You want to work together?" Cronus asked in amazement. "Why not? You know things we don't, and we know things you don't. Together, we could explore the galaxy and maybe convince other species that war isn't the only option." Captain Daeho joined them, having finished coordinating the safe transfer of alien crews. "Marshal, I've been speaking with your officers. Many of them are curious about human culture. Some want to learn about our music, our art, our philosophy. Would you be opposed to cultural exchange programs?" Cronus felt his worldview shifting in ways that frightened and excited him. "Cultural exchange? Between conquerors and conquered?" "Between friends," Daeho corrected gently. "The war is over. Now we get to decide what comes next." On the colony world of New Seoul, Commander Jinhwan addressed the celebrating crowds. "Citizens, what we've witnessed today is more than a military victory. We've seen humanity's true strength, not our ability to destroy, but our ability to create something better from the ashes of conflict." A child in the crowd raised her hand. "Commander, what happens to the alien soldiers now?" "They become our neighbors," Jinhwan replied. "Some will return to their own people to share what they've learned. Others may choose to stay and help us build something new. Either way, they're welcome here." On Earth, the massive viewing screens began showing something different. Instead of battle footage, they displayed images of human and Valtheron crews, working together to repair damaged ships. Alien and human medical teams collaborated to treat the wounded. Engineers from both species examined each other's technology with mutual curiosity and respect. Captain Minji reported to Admiral Hyon from the captured Valtheron flagship. "Sir, you need to see this. The alien crews are voluntarily helping us repair their own ships. They say they want to learn human engineering techniques. And they're fast learners, very fast. One of their engineers just suggested an improvement to our quantum drive systems that could increase efficiency by 30%. Admiral Hyon smiled. "Arrange for full technical exchanges. If they want to learn, we want to teach." Over the following days, the solar system transformed into something unprecedented, a meeting place where former enemies worked side by side. Human ships worked alongside Valtheron vessels to repair battle damage. Mixed crews explored new technologies together. Cultural exchange programs began immediately, with humans learning alien music while aliens discovered human sports. Fleet Marshal Cronus found himself in the strange position of commanding a mixed fleet. Some of his officers chose to return to Empire space to report what they had experienced. Others requested permission to stay and work with the humans. "Sir," Captain Vex approached him, the same officer who had requested surrender during the battle. "I've been working with human engineers on the Ghost Protocol project. They've offered me a position as Joint Technology Coordinator. And you want to accept?" "Sir, I've learned more in 3 days working with humans than I learned in 50 years serving the Empire. They don't just share knowledge, they improve it together." Admiral Hyon made a final broadcast to all human worlds and beyond, knowing that other alien species across the galaxy would be watching. To any civilization receiving this message, humanity extends an invitation. We don't seek to conquer or rule. We seek friends, partners, and the chance to explore this galaxy together. We've learned today that strength comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to create. We've discovered that victory is not about defeating enemies, but about turning them into allies. The Valtheron fleet came here to demonstrate the price of defying their empire. Instead, they've helped us demonstrate something far more powerful, the possibility of building something better together. 6 months later, the former Valtheron territories had become the Human Galactic Alliance. Fleet Marshal Cronus, now Admiral, Cronus of the Alliance commanded a mixed fleet of human and alien vessels exploring distant star systems. His ship, the former Eternal Dominion, had been renamed the New Horizon and equipped with hybrid technology that combined the best of both civilizations. Captain Taywin's Ghost Protocol led a mixed squadron on exploration missions, its crew now, including both humans and Valtherons working together seamlessly. Captain Minji commanded the new heavy cruiser Friendship's Thunder, built using designs created by integrated human-alien engineering teams. Captain Deho had been promoted to ambassador, establishing the new diplomatic corps that welcomed species seeking alternatives to conquest and subjugation. His first successful negotiation convinced 3 minor species to join the alliance voluntarily. But perhaps the most significant change was in the viewing habits of human civilization. The orbital station New Gangnam now broadcast cultural exchange, programs, scientific discoveries, and exploration missions to audiences across dozens of worlds. Children who had watched humanity's first interstellar war now watched the daily adventures of mixed crews discovering new worlds and new friends. Earth, the grandmother who had watched the battle with her grandchildren, now watched them play with alien children in local